Welcome again, everybody. My name is Ed. Today, it's going to be a weird discussion. For the past week, I've been racking my brains, looking basically at the flat Earth effect. Myself, I personally don't subscribe to the fact that we're living on a flat Earth and that, there's edges that fall off and everything else. But it did make me look at other ideas. I believe it's, who was it? Can't remember his name at the moment. One of the channels that I subscribe to, he was going through the cards for the Illuminati card deck, and one of the cards is about flat Earth, and it says they don't, I don't remember the exact wording, but it's basically that they've got it wrong, but they know something. And there's also been another video from a guy that I subscribe to, and I apologize if you guys watch this and you're like, hey, that was my video. I don't remember names very well, so I will often forget who I'm trying to refer to. Like I said, I don't script these videos. I just make them, and try and make sense out of them as I'm going. But in his video, he and another gentleman were discussing evidence of domes on Mars and other planets. And if you watch the video, it does look that way. It very well looks like it was a dome there at one time that kind of got destroyed. And these domes are huge. I mean, just huge as far as their scope. So a lot of the flat earthers believe we're living under a dome on a flat plane, and I can't really get my mind wrapped around the whole flat planet plane thing. I actually can wrap my mind easier around the fact that we're living in the Matrix inside of a computer simulation than I can that this is just a flat plane. But it does kind of feel to me, and it does make sense to me, that we are living possibly under a dome. But it's not on a flat Earth, it's just on a much larger planet than what we're being told. If you've done any research into ancient aliens or, pretty much ancient aliens and stuff like that, especially if you look at the Sumerians, how we were bred and made by them to be a slave race and all that. It's really not that far of a stretch to say, well, this planet we're living on, or this place that we're living in, or whatever, could very well be on a much larger planet under a dome. If they have the technology to create us, do half the things that they've left behind that we've found that we can't even figure out how they made and put together properly, we're supposed to be pretty damn advanced. Well, they had to have been even more advanced because they did that shit way back when, thousands of years. And they could put a dome over us and make an artificial, sun and all that. We can do that now. If you go look up, there's a patent in Russia, I believe, that where they're building an artificial sun. So I can get behind the idea that we're living under a dome. It's very possible that we are, in my opinion. Now, I don't have proof of it. All I have proof of is the same thing that everybody else has got proof of, and that's that NASA lies its ass off at every turn, because you go and you look at a video that's supposed to be a shot of the Earth from orbit, but yet you can see past where the equator would be. If you're looking down from the North Pole, you can see South America and Africa and stuff, and you really shouldn't be able to. It's past the equator. You can't even really see what's at the equator if you look straight down at a globe, because it's flat. There's no perspective to it. So, I mean, we all pretty much know NASA lies. There's been people come out who work for NASA that said, yeah, this is Photoshop, this is fake. There's been people who've said, they worked on the project for the moon landings that were faked. there's just way too much evidence that says, yeah, NASA lies. I've never been a huge believer in the fact that we went to the moon. There's just too many things that stop us from being able to do it. You're telling me that, we went up into outer space, into a complete vacuum, in a ship that was as thin as tinfoil. I'll tell you what, go get yourself a Mylar balloon. Half fill it with air and put it in a vacuum. The balloon's going to explode before you get, the atmosphere inside. It's just going to, there's nowhere for it to go. If it was simply a foil ship that we went up in, which is what they're telling us, then the atmosphere inside would have just blown out the foil. Like I said, try putting a Mylar balloon inside of a vacuum and pump it. You can actually pump a balloon up in a vacuum. So how did they keep the air in and not out? They would have had to have so much airflow, because it's like when you pop an airplane window out when it's at like 10,000 feet and all the air goes rushing out. There's just no way to keep it contained. So I've never been a fan of the whole, we went to the moon and it was in this little foil thing, especially when you got scientists from NASA coming out this past week, 2 weeks, something like that, saying we can't go back to the moon because we don't have that technology, we've lost it. But we can go to fucking Mars. Bullshit. Sorry for my language. But I'm not a huge fan that we've ever actually been to outer space. Like I said, if you look up there and you try and find satellites, you really can't find them. There's so many satellites up there that you shouldn't be able to take a picture of the outer space without finding something. Like I said, there's going to be people who are definitely going to hate this video, because there's going to be people, no, we went to the moon. Well, I've never been one to follow what anybody tells me. I have questioned everything since the day I was freaking born. So I've always, looked into, well, if this is the case, then how does this work? And there's more things that debunk that it's possible that we did it than there is that says, yeah, we did it. All that we got that say that did it is the government and the media. I've never been to outer space. Pretty sure no one that's watching this has ever been to outer space. If you have, send me some video evidence. Give me a 360-degree shot while you're out there in outer space. Love to see it. But I'm pretty sure no one that's watching this video has been to outer space. The reason that, they can get away with everything they're getting away with is because they tell us something, they give us what they tell us is proof, and most people believe it. I've never been one to follow the path. So when, this past week I've been basically going through all these flat earth videos, and a lot of them make really, really good points. They do. It's very hard to debunk a flat earth video. I can't do it. I'm not even going to try. I'm going to tell you, it's not my opinion that we're on a flat earth, but a lot of what they say makes sense if we're on a much bigger planet. It also makes more sense that way in the respect of, if you look at the way the planets go from the sun out, generally the ones closer are bigger. Ours is this little freaking marble. Now, they tell us scientifically that, the planets are bigger because they have more mass, so they're swinging harder and everything else, so that's what keeps them in, orbit. And the smaller planets, because there's less mass, they're out further. Well, ours is like one of the smallest planets out there, and we're right up close to the sun, supposedly. But if we were a big planet, that would make a lot more sense, because as a big planet, then we're in there with the big planets, closer to the sun. And if we're under a dome, because for whatever reason, maybe something happened on our planet thousands of years ago. I mean, we do have amnesia as a species. We don't know how we've done anything if it hasn't happened in the past 2,000 years. Maybe 3. I mean, we have amnesia as a race. So, for all we know, there was a big war outside and we were put under this dome to protect us. I don't know. But the dome does make sense, because there's a lot that it proves. That if we are under a dome, that's why we really haven't been to the moon. It's, it explains why our supposed, missiles and all that have to go up and then almost fly literally flat with the Earth to get from one side to the other. And if we were actually sending them into outer space, like they say, or the space shuttle or anything that we send up as a rocket, if we were actually sending it into space, it would go predominantly straight up. It might curve a little bit, but the max is going to be his 45-degree angle, because if you go too far, you start losing altitude because gravity will take over because there's no upward thrust. And if you've ever watched any kind of launch, the damn thing goes up like this, and then it literally flattens out, and it's flying horizontal with the planet. If that's going to reach outer space, I don't know how it's going to reach outer space, going vertical with the planet, or horizontal with the planet, and not vertical. And if you ever watch an actual launch, when they launch it, the numbers are sitting there ticking how, the altitude. The altitude is moving as fast, if not faster, when it does this and starts flying this way, as far as how far it's getting away from the planet. It, again, doesn't make any sense. It's by all laws of physics that they give us, And most sciences, again, I'm not a huge fan of most sciences, because most sciences try to say it's like a law, like the law of gravity. There is no law of gravity, because gravity is still a theory. We have never proved that gravity works the way that Isaac Newton said it did. We're guessing. We have some proof that it works the way he says, but we also have proof that says it doesn't, because according to his, theory on gravity is that it works off mass. And this is pretty much one of the ones that screwed me up in grade school, because in grade school they take a feather and a ball and they put it in a vacuum, and when you turn it over, they both drop at the same rate because there's no air to stop it. And they see that's proof that the air is what causes gravity to act differently on a feather compared to a ball, because the feather has more, surface area, that it takes longer to float down because its mass isn't as great. Well, if that's the case, and it works off mass, and air only slows things down because of their volume compared to mass, then the ball, being more mass, should still drop faster than the feather, which has almost no mass, and yet they still drop the same rate. So their whole gravity frickin' story is off to me. And I've had people try to explain that one to me, and it doesn't fill the holes with anything, but this is how it works. And there's no proof to that's how it works. So please don't come on here telling me, well, this is how gravity works, and that's why it does that. Because all you're doing is repeating the rhetoric that they taught us in school, that's in books, that modern science says, but there's no proof that all those do the way they say it does. That is why science, and this has always been the case, is theories. Until you prove something absolute, it is not a law. And we have nothing that is absolute in science. You can even boil water at many different temperatures, and it doesn't have to be at different altitudes. And you don't have to add salt to it. This is just water straight out of the faucet. If it's got more minerals in it, it'll freeze, it'll boil at different temperatures. Slight variations, not huge swings, but it happens. There is no absolutes in science. Unless you have water at its absolute purest, it will not freeze at the same temperature. And then if you go up or down in altitude or boil or whatever, it's going to change. There is no absolute. It's all variables. And as long as the variables are right and it works out to the equation you want, then we, for some reason, are calling it a law anymore, which it's never been that case. Science has always been finding a theory and then trying to find a way to prove that theory. There is no way to prove any theory. Quantum physics proved that when they shot an atom through a slide without observing it and found out that it hit every single spot at the exact same time. But then when they observed it, it either went one way or the other. So there's no way to prove any scientific fact that anyone wants to point out. So flat Earth, not my opinion, but there's a lot of evidence that they have that leads that way. Round Earth, definitely, as far as our planet being the small round ball that they tell us, if you look at the evidence, it's a lie. Just look at the flight paths, look at history, recordings of when explorers went to the Antarctic and tried to sail around it. It took the amount of time and the amount of miles that it would take to go around the whole, if it was like basically the outside. So yeah, there is definitely, the North Pole is the center and the South Pole is the outside. There's too much evidence to even really dispute that fact. So if you're a round Earth person, not telling you you're wrong, telling you that the planet is definitely not the size they're telling us. I'm not a flat Earth person. I am a round Earth person. I just think that the planet's a lot bigger than they're telling us. And that's why Admiral Byrd, when he flew over the Antarctic, said there was a landmass on the other side bigger than America with resources and everything else that no one lived on. Because it's there, we just don't have access to it. Because we're possibly in a dome. Now, I don't know 100% we're in a dome. We might not be in a dome. We could be just inside of this little area that's surrounded by ice to keep us in, and there's still other area out there. I am definitely a believer that what they're telling us the size of our planet is not the case, because there's just too much proof out there that says the opposite. I am a fan of the fact that we do live on a bigger planet, though. So hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't already researched any flat Earth ideas, they're definitely a good watch. And like I said, they have a lot of evidence that proves that we're not on this little blue marble floating in space the size that it says it is. Now, most of them want to take that as to, well, see, so that proves it's flat. Doesn't prove it's flat. Just proves that we're definitely on something a lot bigger than what they're telling us. There's got to be, something to what they're saying. Am I going the flat Earth direction? Can't do it. If I'm wrong, I will change my opinion on it if anybody can prove to me that we're on a flat Earth. And the only way I can figure that happening is them finding a way to get us into outer space or to get us past the flats, where it's supposed to end. If you take it and take a photo of, there's the end of the, planet, and it's drop off, nothing but galaxy or whatever underneath us, and straight out in front of you, I might even be able to get into flat Earth. But until you got some proof that the Earth is flat, just having stuff that could lead to a flat Earth isn't proof. Most of the proof that I've seen proves that we're on a much larger planet, not a flat one. So if you like the video, please like and subscribe. Sorry about the ramble. Like I said, I didn't really know how to put this into words. I've been watching these videos for the past week, and they've got a lot of evidence. They do. But none of it at all proves that the Earth is flat. It just proves that it's not what we're being told, in my opinion. So, sorry about rambling. Until next time.